Well, looking at the Kenyan markets now, let's see the NSE over there, closing slightly down 0.47 there and a bit more over the month. 4866 is where it is. And on the currency front, we have 83.8 for the shilling. Just a slight shift there. The shilling has been much more stable in recent weeks since that election. Well, joining us now from our studios in Nairobi to give us an update on the Kenyan markets is Kimathi Ikiao. He is an independent analyst. Kimathi, perhaps you could just give us an overview, good afternoon to you, an overview of how the market has been today.
A very good afternoon to you. Yes, the market today starting off on not particularly solid footing in that the index was down slightly and pretty much a lull in terms of investment activity and actually news coming through the particular stock markets. But all in all, we hope that the bullish run we've seen year to date, the NSE is up about 17%. We hope that that bullish run will continue before the end of the month gets here.
Am I right in perceiving that the shilling has certainly been more stable since the election, or is that just because the days I've been happening to look at it, it hasn't seemed to move much?
Yes, indeed, the shilling has actually been stable and actually, in fact, gaining, particularly on the greenback. And this is attributed to a very positive outlook for the Kenyan economy as a whole. The World Bank is forecasting a 5% GDP growth, and with the election behind us, we're beginning to see a lot of positivity, especially with what the Uhuru administration has to offer as far as matters economic are concerned. So we really hope that this positive attribute, this positive sentiment will continue to have the shilling strengthen against the global major currencies, and we hope to see that convert actually into something beneficial for the local man on the streets.
Okay, then Kenya Power, we were talking about it on the show this morning when we crossed to Beatrice in Nairobi. Kenya Power to its lowest level in more than 2 months. That's after those tariff increases rejected. Africa does seem to have a problem with tariffs and electricity. Certainly in South Africa, we've had big issues with them. So to what extent is this intrusion by the regulator affecting a stock like that?
Well, Kenya Power is a very interesting play in that it is a very, very regulated industry. And in this particular case, we saw the ERC, which is its main regulator, actually be turned down as far as that proposal for increased power tariffs went. That was late last week. But look at it in a very more positive macroeconomic picture. That move is likely to reduce inflationary pressures, and that is something that's definitely would be a good boost towards the Kenyan economy as a whole. But on the downside, we hope that this does not necessarily translate into Kenya Power not being able to continue supplying energy when and as it may be required. So there is that concern that Kenya Power may not really be able to continually distribute power throughout the country. Now, for power generation, one always needs to consider that for an institution such as Kenya Power, which is really in the transmission and distribution business, they look at power as a portfolio, so to speak. So one of the attributes that this focus seems to be on is on the fuel cost component. And fuel cost is only very large in only one particular type of power generation. When you look at the renewable energies, which Kenya is a global leader in, that is in hydropower and also in geothermal power, you actually get to see the point whereby the government is standing in and coming to say that, hold on, really the tariffs are adequate as they are.
Well, looking at some of the big performers last week, Kimathi, the market bullish, active trading on some of those big companies. We often talk about Safaricom. We often talk about East African breweries. Are they going to continue strongly this week?
Yes, that positive sentiment is expected to continue, and especially we are now in a season whereby actually the foreign investor sentiment is really under the scrutiny of every market player, and this actually tends to favor the big caps, East African breweries, Safaricom, KCB, Equity Bank. These are really the counters that a lot of foreign players like to dabble in. So everyone has their eyes out on those, and we expect the positive sentiment to continue on those particular counters throughout the week.
And then I saw an interesting company, obviously of South African interest, Dimension Data, expressing an intention to buy out Access Kenya. That share then suspended. Is that the rule in Kenya, where a share has to be suspended if interest is expressed? Or is it to protect the share from extreme trading, if you like?
Well, actually, that seems to be a new kind of approach that the market regulator, the CMA, has taken. We initially saw it last year with Kenol Kobil, and now we've seen it with Access Kenya. But prior to that, really, we did not particularly have a lot of merger and acquisition activity. For example, even with City Trust, which is currently intending to acquire several other banks, not only locally but in the region, we don't see the shares being suspended. And if you look at even historically, we saw the Standard Bank Group of South Africa come in and acquire CFC, which was a Kenyan banking arm. We did not see that kind of a suspension come in. But in this particular case, I think the regulator is really trying to protect the minority investors, and we only hope that this kind of suspension is not protracted, so as to ensure that the market continuity is favorable.